Hey there, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth, as always, with some ideas and insights for what to pay attention to when you are getting ready to scale your business. So, of course, there's a lot of talk right now about recession proofing. It's a big narrative. And the interesting thing that we've been noticing is that the same stuff that everybody talks about for recession proofing is also exactly the same stuff that we have to pay attention to and really take care of when you're getting ready to actually grow and scale the business in a very intentional and focused way. So I'm sure, as most of you have been following, there's a lot of really big companies, especially in tech, who have been laying off thousands and thousands of people, which of course, big layoffs instill a lot of fear into people because, hey, does that mean I'm going to be next? So whether you are tracking this or not, chances are your team is, and chances are they have some sort of narrative, fear, whatever going on in their mind. So it's an important conversation to have with your team. And it's also important to be transparent about what's going on, how your company's doing, how they can help, all that kind of stuff. But one thing that is clear is layoffs are a short-term blanket solution, and mostly they don't really solve anything. Because what happens for most of these companies is that they have an ineffective strategy anyway, which landed them where they are. And they have loss of market share, which is why they're panicking. And of course, they're not making enough revenue, and that leads to bad decisions. So it leads to these kind of short-sighted decisions that don't really take care of the problem in the long term, actually creates more problems in the long term. So what we really have to focus on to get ready to grow and scale, to make sure that we survive in any economic climate, is the right effort with the right mindset. So our focus at all time needs to be on our growth strategies plus cost cutting. So growth strategies start with a very simple understanding exactly what the most powerful service or product is that you are currently offering. And that always kind of goes with the most important leverage pieces. Are you the best in the world at doing this? Do you love doing this? Do you have a market that you can expand as much as possible? Like, is this market expansive that you're serving? And where do you have the highest profit margin? So those four things really are the most important levers to pay attention to when you're getting ready to scale, when you know what to scale in what your offerings are, to make sure that you have the best growth strategy in mind. So you need to cover those four pieces that we just talked about. And then cost cutting, well, you might wonder, well, isn't layoffs part of cost cutting? But what if we consider this in a slightly different way? So cost cutting could be having your team understand how they're using their resources and what resources are actually wasted. So it's more focused on uncovering waste, uncovering low productivity, uncovering ineffective strategies, ineffective product services. So we want to just cut the fat, get done with waste, stop wasting effort, resources, time, all that stuff. So we're getting really lean in the way that we're approaching the business. So when you think about making sure that your growth strategies are the most effective possible and that you're focused on cost cutting, well, that leads to immediate revenue growth, and that's what we're going for. So what that really comes down to is three words: eliminate, simplify, and automate. So eliminate means we remove anything that doesn't drive growth or value. So really important things here. And those two things we always have to work in tandem, because revenue growth overall, how do we drive that in the best and most efficient way possible is by focusing on the low-hanging fruit, where we have the least amount of input with the most amount of output. So you have to figure out what that is in your business that produces the most amount of output with the least amount of input. So we want to keep looking for those places. So, and we want to remove anything that doesn't drive growth or value. So short-term track, immediate track is focusing on highest amount of output with the least amount of input. But then in parallel, you have to work on those more longer term strategies that might require a lot of input for a lot of output later. But if we don't start focusing on this now, we'll always be behind the 8-ball. A lot of strategies take a while to ramp up, take a while to put all the pieces in place so that you have a roadmap and the milestones that you can follow to get this done. However, if we don't start focusing on it now, we'll never get it done. And when you're looking at, especially with the market right now, if there's any place where you have to make changes, pivot is dramatic, but where you have to make changes, adjustments, edits, all that kind of stuff, you have to know about this way before you want to have to get to that place. So you have to be strategic about the way you plan this. So in all your busyness, in all your efforts to raise your productivity, you can't forget about those long-term strategies that will save your skin down the way when everybody else has already gotten this done and you're behind, or you're one of the few ones that has gotten it done and now you're not behind. And that's what we really want to go for. So we want to remove anything that doesn't drive growth or value. And then the second thing, the simplify is about streamlining. Look at your processes. Where do you not have processes in place right now? So you're wasting time, resources, energy, all that kind of stuff. Where are you much slower than you have to? Where are you double doing, having gaps? Especially, that's an important conversation to have with your team, so everybody understands, hey, where are we most focused? What are our most important priorities right now? And then how do we get to our outcome in the most effective and efficient way possible? So we're streamlined, we're all understanding what the best path is, and we're all following that path. So that's the piece of streamlining, simplifying. And then automation. Well, of course, that's a huge piece, because that means you take any of your low value tasks and automate them so that you can use your team for much more valuable tasks. Just think about anything in your business that's low value, that's kind of soul sucking, that's boring, that doesn't really require anybody to have a whole lot of skills. What software, what machine, what kind of automation processes could you implement that will save you and your time a lot of headache, a lot of boredom, a lot of disengagement over time, so that the valuable resources you have, your people, that they can focus on the stuff that actually matters. So they can look at the more valuable tasks, they can work on those, which also means they're going to be a whole lot more engaged and produce much better results. So focus on that, because your people are your greatest value. They're your greatest asset. They're your greatest value. And you want to make sure that you serve them, that you protect that value, because that's going to get you the best outcomes over time. So we've been throwing around a bunch of terms today. We talked about eliminate, simplify, automate. Now I'm going to bring another one in for your team, because for them to really be able to serve at the highest level possible, grow to their highest potential, we have to make sure that we set them up to win. And what it takes to do that is clarity, courage, and commitment. So when we're following everything I've laid out today, we're really focused on the product. We know what product to serve. We know how to set it up right so that we can do it the least wasteful, the most lean way possible. And then we're getting the people dialed in. And you may be wondering, do I have the team in place right now that can actually serve my business at the highest level possible, which everybody on the team has to be on their A game to be able to grow and scale. And that answer is still outstanding because we don't really know yet. If you haven't set your team up in the best way possible to deliver those results, we don't even know yet who on your team can deliver at that A level. So that clarity, courage, and commitment piece comes in because you have to deliver that clarity. And that without that clarity, we don't even know yet if you have the right people, because if you haven't been incredibly specific in the goals and expectations that you set for them, so that you can actually gauge, are they those A players or not? We don't even know yet. They may be awesome people. They may have been really trying, and maybe you've been really trying, but it's kind of like you're speaking two different languages. So everybody's trying, but you're just kind of going like this all the time. So you're missing each other, and that can be really frustrating for both parties. So giving them the clarity is step one, because then we can make really good assessments and decisions. Now, even your great people, when you give them the clarity, they're going to appreciate that, they're going to love it. But another piece of that is they're going to up-level their identity just as much as you will have to up-level your identities so you can be a better leader. The leader that's leading $1 million business is going to be completely different from the leader that's leading a $10 million or $100 million business. So you have to bring up your identity, your expectations, your acceptance, your receivingness, right? The way you show up for your team, but so do they when you're asking them to perform at a higher level. So they will have to bring a lot of courage to the table, because most likely it involves getting uncomfortable. It involves not knowing how to do something. It involves taking higher risks. It involves getting a lot more skin in the game. So you have to help them have that courage. And you being their coach is one of the best ways you can help them with that. So you're moving away from, in your leadership role, in your identity, you're moving away from managing them and tasking and detailing, and you're moving into a role where you're being more of a coach, where you're allowing and empowering them to come up with much, much better solutions. And that also means you're coaching them to have the courage to do all those things for you. And then, of course, the third concept is commitment. And the way that comes in is where you have to be an even better leader, because that means holding people accountable, teaching them about accountability, what that actually means, and then showing up for them with a great amount of compassion, which also means making sure that they understand what it means to show up. Compassion is not necessarily understanding their excuses. It's about holding them accountable and holding and really calling it tight to make sure that they can show up, and they will show up at the highest level possible. So everything we talked about today, making sure that you have the right product in place, that you know how to serve it right, that you know what the strategies are to support it best, and then to make sure that you can support your people and curate that team in a way where you are hitting it on all the different cylinders. Those are all the steps on your roadmap that you can't miss when you get ready to go into hypergrowth, into scaling. So I hope this helped. If you want to know more about it, we just created an awesome new training that you can find at bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com. bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com. Go over there, check out the training, and I will talk to you on the inside.